So I've been making these videos about light girls and things correlating with colorism and anti-black racism, and they keep cutting off, but I'm going to make this very brief. Anyway, as I was talking about in my last video, when it comes to the validity of a black womanhood, we tend to discredit that based on how light or how appealing to the Eurocentric white cishet male gaze she is, such as, let's say, Mariah Carey, who clearly identifies as a black woman more than anything. People seem to have an issue with the fact that we call her a black woman because no way, she's light skinned, she's not just black, she's half white. But when it comes to a rapper like Drake, a lot of people don't really question his black manhood. Now, they may question his black masculinity, but they never really say that he's not black. Now, due to masculization, a lot of times darker skinned black men are revered as very brute, hypersexualized men, and that's not a good thing at all. It's very anti-black. But at the same time, when it comes to light skin, it's equated with femininity, which goes with gendered colorism and how we view black women. And the lighter you are, the more woman and feminine you are. But then when it comes to light skinned black men, they too have this privilege of being looked at as the representatives of what it is to be a successful black man. But due to patriarchy, they're not so much favored by other cishet black men because of this competition. So I do see like where people are coming from with colorism and light skin privilege, especially among black men. But usually the issue is the fact that it's very gender specific towards black women. So I don't really agree with this ideal that black men don't consider Drake black, but they consider any black woman with one drop of black in her to be black. Because, as I said in a previous video, Kim Kardashian, who is far from black, can suddenly become a black woman or an honorary black woman as soon as black men are attracted to her and put her above black women who are black or significantly of black heritage. You know what I mean? So I don't understand how some people can have an issue with someone saying that Mariah Carey is black, but then we have the same type of men trying to say that Kim Kardashian or a non-black woman of color is black just because of her appearance or because she is somehow attractive to the cishet black male gaze. Because when it comes to the cishet black male gaze, they are attracted to black women's features like full lips and a large ass, but just not on a black woman, and remnants of what it is to be a black woman or what visible blackness is, but they want those features on lighter bodies. And because Kim Kardashian is an epitome of a light skinned or white woman with a full figure and a large ass that are known on black women, then she is the perfect candidate of this so-called honorary black woman, which is very dehumanizing for actual black women who go through plights that Kim Kardashian does not go through because of the fact that she's a white woman, or however you consider her, a lighter skinned woman. I don't think that she's considered a woman of color, but that's debatable. But she is a European woman overall. But yeah, I don't really have an issue with considering light-skinned black women black, because if they are black, even if they're mixed with this and that, at least they're mixed with black. At least they are significantly black versus someone like Kim Kardashian trying to pass for black. Like, come on. So yeah, I think light-skinned black men never have to be doubted on how black they are. It's just kind of like people will make fun of Drake, but his black manhood is still intact. People still look at him as his black man. Whereas Jhené Aiko, who's probably going off of her mixedness or what she said she was mixed with, Jhené Aiko is technically 50% black and only 1/4 Asian, East Asian, 1/4 Japanese. But because of her phenotype and the way she looks, she is looked at as, an Asian or a mixed Asian singer versus someone who is really more black than she is Asian, but because of her phenotype, and people look at her as the Asian girl. And I do understand when it comes to appearance, people judge a person's ethnicity or race based on how they look because race is a social construct. So people can look at Mariah Carey as this white woman, whereas Beyonce is this black woman, because Beyonce is really light skinned herself, but she's more visibly black compared to Mariah. But I feel Beyonce also fits into a respectability level that Mariah Carey just does not fit into, which is why Beyonce is more popular and more known than Mariah, because in spite of her light skin / white passing privilege, Mariah Carey does not adhere to respectability politics. She does not. She really doesn't. And neither does Beyonce. I'm not saying Beyonce adheres to it, but she is just looked at as more respectable versus Mariah Carey. And the same thing with Whitney Houston. Mariah Carey still is considered the most successful female artist of the 90s. And I do think it's a lot to do with how, as someone on this VH1 put it, racially confusing she was, which I found that to be quite offensive. But at the same time, people don't really respect Mariah as they do with Whitney and Beyonce, because these are black women, albeit browner skin. They still like fit into what a person thinks a black woman should be when it comes to respectability, because anti-blackness goes beyond how we look. It's just how we act, or how we act in an environment that is not very friendly to blackness. So Mariah Carey can still face anti-blackness just because of her mannerisms and how her perception on the world and her black womanhood has on other people. So I think it's very complicated to just say, well, Mariah Carey isn't black because she looks white, when that's a lot to do with anti-blackness and the fact that because white men are now attracted to this light-skinned woman who is deemed black, suddenly she's not black. So it makes them feel better of the fact that they are attracted to a black woman. Because as I said to this YouTuber named Jaluzi or Julesy, I don't know what her name is, but she is a natural hair tutorial person, and she was talking about why Tatiana Ali was considered light skinned, and I was like, because of the fact that she is a pretty dark brown skinned woman with hair deemed good, and suddenly she becomes light skinned. I talked about in school days how when it came to the light skinned girls, there was one dark skinned girl, she was in Boys in the Hood, she played a mother. In fact, she was with the girls because she had long hair, and she was attractive to them. She was dark skinned and had visibly black features, but because of her long hair and because of her conventional attractiveness, she was now one of the good haired light skinned girls. And not to say that the dark skinned girls weren't attractive, but there was that correlation with having good long curly hair. And with light girls, I do want to say I think they focus too much on having long hair and having light colored eyes, which does not necessarily equate to being light skinned, because there are so many people who are light skinned or light brown and have very ethnic looking features or telltale signs that they are black. Like, you can tell that these are black people, because as I've said before, I am considered light skinned to most black people that I know, but I am so visibly black that you can't really mistake me as mixed, especially when I have my 4C hair out. So that's one thing they should have intersected with, that not every light-skinned black woman has thin noses and long straight curly hair or light colored eyes. They just really assumed that being light-skinned meant that you had long hair, and that was problematic. It really was. And apparently, what I missed was that there were so many black men talking shit about black women and saying that light-skinned women were trophies, but dark-skinned girls can give good hugs. And that very problematic aspect where light-skinned women are these prissy, prestigious women that have agency, that can curve a man, but then a dark-skinned woman can take any type of man because she is desperate and she's not wanted. So she really does not have that option to rejecting any type of advance that she gets. That's why I don't shed a tear when I see something like this light-skinned girl has 800 unread text messages, and I saw one post on Instagram actually of a very young girl with light skin and blue eyes. I believe she's actually a girl where people have been objectifying and sexualizing, and she's about 8 years old. And here's one thing I do want to say. I don't really like parents who like put a lot of makeup on their children and like put their pictures on website to get people to say, oh, look how pretty they are, and look how, I mean, there's not an issue with that, but I just feel uncomfortable of the fact that they are really emphasizing that this is a light-skinned black girl with blue eyes and, you know, really pretty curly hair, and you know she's beautiful, and in a way objectifying her, or how there's a lot of people stealing parents pictures of mixed race children or light skinned black children and saying, you know, I want to steal that child, just objectifying them. And I just find that incredibly problematic. But this girl was basically like being hypersexualized and having her age inflated just because of her looks. And I'm just like, why would you use that young girl's picture, you know, for your own colorist archetype? Like, I hate that. I really do. And as I was saying in a union earlier, I was talking to my brother and my sister. My brother is a light-skinned black man with very narrow features. He has a very thin nose, and I actually thought he was biracial or half white until he told me that no, he's black because both of his parents are black. I was telling him how you cannot be racist against white people because he does not believe in that whole white privilege, you know, power plus privilege. He just goes by the dictionary definition, and he kept reading it to me so many times. So I finally recorded the whole session, the debate, and he was just like, you know, I'm more educated than you. Let me tell you something. I don't care what your degrees are or how educated you are. You don't know everything. You can be wrong. Just because you may be smart and have good grades or whatever and you work hard, that does not mean that you know all there is to know about racism. And he kept saying that I was wrong for trying to tell him and another girl that there's such thing as white privilege and light skin privilege. I straight up told him, you know, if it were between him and a dark skinned girl, he would get the job even if they have the same credentials. And he's like, well, they can't tell you the person's credentials. I said, I know, but they do research. They get the people's credentials and say, okay, this person got the job, but this person didn't. And they have higher credibility than this other person, but this person is black and the other person is white, or this person is a dark-skinned male and then this person is a light-skinned male, or this is a light-skinned female, or and this is a dark-skinned female, or this is a light-skinned black male and this is a dark-skinned black female. And he kept saying, well, since I don't have an advantage over white people, then it doesn't matter if I have an advantage over her. You know what I'm saying? Just because people oppress you on one area does not mean that you can't oppress another person in this area. So it was just infuriating. And when I was like, you know, I'm going to put this on video, he's like, oh no, you can't put this on video. You know, you don't have my consent. I would lose respect for you, you know, as a sister. Which honestly, like, if you want to talk like that, you know, I've already lost respect for you just a little bit if you don't even want to listen to me about what racism really is, and you want me to shed a tear because some 10-year-old white girl got made fun of because she was wearing box braids. And I said straight up, you cannot wear dreads or very African or black influenced hairstyles because you are not of that culture. If you are not black, you cannot wear dreads or braids that are very prevalent in African American women or black women all over the globe. And he's like, but if you are in an organization with mostly white people, then you are appropriating. And I'm just like, oh God, because I even explained why it seems like black people don't want white people in their space. But then they're like, well, why are you in this organization for white people? And I said, it's not for white people. It's a space for everyone, but it's predominantly white. That's different than because we were excluded from those spaces. So that's why we have black spaces. That's totally different than you just trying to make excuses, you know, as to why you feel that white people getting their feelings hurt matter when there are 12-year-old boys getting shot because they are playing with toy guns. But you want me to care that a 10-year-old white girl was crying because black people made fun of her, which, by the way, I said that was wrong, but he's like, but these were black people. I said that was wrong. He wanted me to condemn black people for it. Another thing was that earlier today I was talking to my philosophy professor, and he brought up a good point that I noticed that when I went to the MLK dinner, he was like, the man was good, the speaker, but he pretty much criticized African Americans more so than to celebrate their heritage and their history. And I was like, you know what? You are right. This was a white man, but he said that, you know, for an event that was supposed to celebrate African American achievement, he spent more time condemning black people and saying, this is your fault that you're in this predicament. And I'm like, yeah, you know, why should we have a dinner for African Americans celebrating our black history and black culture, and you always want to go back to how, you know, it's our fault and this and that? Because even when we have dinners for Latin Americans or Chinese Americans or people of different cultures and ethnicity, I hardly hear people sit there and say, well, if you would do this or if you would stop doing this, then this wouldn't be your problem. People just stick to celebrating their own history and their own culture. But every time we have an event for black people, we go back to appeasing the white gays and talking about how we need to do better. Like, shut the fuck up. I don't give a fuck about some black person in a hoodie going to school and rapping and playing loud music, as long as these are someone getting their education. And even if they're not getting an education, why does it matter? Someone on Yik Yak keeps posting ignorant shit about how these are black people embarrassing real black kids trying to get their work, and I hate stereotypical black people. These aren't stereotypical black people. These are just black people that you stereotype. And it pisses me the fuck off that you want to pay attention to the black kids that are just doing their thing and then wonder why we don't fucking like you, that we don't want to be bothered with you. I can't stand that at all. But yeah, Yik Yak just shows the true colors. You know, so many people are complaining about how there's so many black people, and you know, this school is really being run to the ground because of so many black kids just hanging out. What time is it? I need to be back at the union to hang out. But so many black kids are just being made fun of, but yet there are the same type of white kids walking around playing loud music, but no one says shit about it. I'm just sick of the respectability politics. You know, people say that they know about race and everything, but then they want to sit there and not even discuss power dynamics and about how you cannot be racist against white people and that you can be prejudiced but not racist. You can't racially discriminate against a white person. And they say, well, you're wrong. And it's hard to explain to people because they're just going to throw it back up and say that you're wrong. But that's all I have to say right now. I was trying to make this as quick as possible. That's why I'm probably talking real fast and jumping to one subject to another. But like I said, light girls, boo, and next time try to make a better video and talk about real issues instead of how it's woe is me, the girls didn't like me because I was light skinned and considered pretty. That doesn't work. Yeah, and you know, you can't hear a side that has power to say that I want to hear the pain of being light skinned and this perceived privilege that is not perceived, it's what you have. It's just very ignorant. And there's no two sides to an issue. Like, only one person benefits off of it, and that's light-skinned black people. Light-skinned black people can be oppressors because this is interracism. This isn't just white supremacy, this is interracism. And who has power in the black community? Light-skinned, able-bodied, cis-het men, and then any person correspondent to them. You know, light-skinned black women. You know, it's a level. So, yeah, bye.